Today is talking about extended producer responsibility. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is, and then primarily we're going to concentrate on what you can do in the software to try and help with EPR reporting. Hopefully most of you know me. I'm Claudio. I'm the Bevica product director. I look after the product from a general point of view. And Fran is joining us today. Fran, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Francesca Hartley, or Fran, it's fine. I'm one of the consultants here at TBT. I've been here since October last year, and in my previous role, I actually looked after collecting the data from suppliers for EPR. So I feel some of your pain points.
So Fran recently joined us, was it 6 or 7 months ago?
Yeah, October last year it was, yeah.
She has first-hand experience of some of the pain that this type of thing causes. So we're not going to go into the detail of what the EPR scheme does, but we did just want to kind of set the scene. This is the official paraphrasing from official documentation on what the EPR scheme does. If anyone does want to know more, just get in touch with us and we can point you in the right direction and we can give you a bit more of an overview of the scheme itself. But effectively, I think what it's trying to do is reduce the amount of packaging that's being used by charging people for it. From a practical point of view, this means that what we're expected to do is, for applicable sales, record the weights of different materials by item. Each of these materials carry a fee that's published by ton. So the idea is that as you do sales, you record these weights, of course, these materials, they carry a fee with them. And then at the end of the period, we report on those weights. And then that goes to the scheme administrator, or quite often a third party, to manage the fees themselves. And then from an ERP point of view, from our point of view, we also are interested in financially acknowledging that those fees exist within the ERP, because they are a significant cost to the business. So in Bevica, being the kind of the ERP reporting and recording ERP, this is what we're trying to achieve. So today is about showing you what we think ERP represents, EPR represents in the software. We are planning a roundtable for later in the year where we're going to invite people physically to come, maybe to central London or to Woking, where we can kind of thrash this out and decide in a bit more detail maybe what we should be achieving in Bevica and what we can do, because there are some holes in the process, which we'll talk about today. And Fran's going to show you some of the ERP reporting in the software and where it doesn't quite fit or doesn't quite do everything we want to. But from a Bevica point of view, what we're trying to do is record the weights against materials, against items, and have the ability to report on them, record and report the fees that are associated to those weights. We really want to accrue for those fees to the GL, either in real time or periodically at the end of the month, so that financially we know what's happening. And then, as ever, we want to make it as painless as possible, because it is an overhead on the business to record all these things, and to do it in a timely manner so that from a reporting point of view, we know what's happening money-wise as these materials are sold and the fees kind of accrue in the background. So there are a number of different options that we have in the software, and we're going to start from simple to more complex. So the simple tends to be manual. The more complex requires a bit of setup, process, but it does mean that things are more automated. So starting at the simple end, we do have item additional details in the software. So against an item, we can record the weights of each material against an item. That's as much as it does in terms of setup. If we then wanted to record or report on that, we would then need to look at the item ledger entry, so the movements of sales, match them against the item details, maybe in Excel or Power BI at the end of the month and be able to calculate what our weights and fees are. The plus side of this is that it is quite simple. You do have to set up the material weights per item, but using copy item, you can do that quite simply. There's no recording or accruals for fees or sales as posting, and it is kind of a periodic manual process then to pull all this information together. But this can be done in the standard software if that's kind of the level that that you need or you want for this type of reporting. Kind of a level up, and this is the official sustainability extension from Microsoft. It has specific EPR features inside it, and this is what Fran is going to concentrate showing us in a minute. It does record all the materials. It has something called an item material composition, which is basically a bill of materials that make up the bottle or the packaging that then is recorded as you do sales, and it tells you what the weights are as you do those sales. And then there's something called an exercise journal that periodically, typically at the end of the month, you would process to bring all that information together for reporting. So this adds, I think, specific functionality. It does make things a bit more professional and sophisticated. There are some holes in it, though. There's no financial posting as part of any of this EPR reporting. And there's no visibility of the material weights that are used on sales, and we'll show you that later on. But I think it's a very good start from Microsoft, and part of today and part of the roundtable is to try and, with your help, to figure out what bits we can add to kind of complete the whole software. So for me, kind of the biggest area that this doesn't address is that accruing for the fees as things are posted as you're doing sales. So in the software, in Bevica, you can accrue for these fees by using the distribution cost management extension. You can set up your item charges either for just glass, if that's the main one, or for each individual material. And then as items are put onto sales orders and posting, you can be then accruing for those fees into the GL. This I quite like because it does automate the financial postings in real time, so your GL is up to date with what's happening. You can group items together, so it doesn't have to be a one-for-one, but it doesn't really look at the EPR reporting from the material weight point of view. So if you use the distribution cost management, you'd then need to use something else like the sustainability module to actually manage the weights and the reporting on the weights itself. So distribution cost management is one option. And then if you want to be a little bit more sophisticated, Retros does a similar thing where you can set up the fees against your items. The difference here between the Retros and distribution cost management is here you can be a bit more prescriptive about which sales are actually accrued for. So you can put different types of customers, different types of items, can attract the fees or not attract the fees. Whereas the distribution cost management is a bit more blunt. It'll just do it for the item or the group of items, kind of a yes or no type thing. But this, in a similar way to distribution costs, doesn't do the EPR reporting on the weights, and it can't exclude if things like exports or types of sales that don't attract the fees. So those are the different options that we have. And then some of the bits that are missing that we'll talk about as we do the software demonstration bit is the sustainability extension really concentrates on the fees. The setup, you put the materials in by item, so you know what the material weights are, but all the output really concentrates on the fees and how much you're expected to pay, those expected fees. It includes all sales. It doesn't exclude exports, and there's no automated financial posting. So that's something that's common to everything in sustainability on the Microsoft extension. It'll create ledgers. It'll record information, but nothing is automatically posted. If you wanted to post things, you'd have to maybe put it in Excel and create your own journal and post at the end of the month from the information that's in the sustainability module. The other bit that's missing is the type of sale that I kind of mentioned. So there's no recognition of sales by the glass, and no recognition of when you're selling to specific areas or exports that shouldn't attract the fees. So Fran is going to show us the sustainability features, and effectively 5 bits to it. There's the setup, that you really is just a one-time thing, that you do the setup to make sure it's all working in the background. Then you create your item material compositions. That's the bill of materials that you then link to an item or multiple items. So that tells the software the weights and the materials per item that you're trying to post. Then we'll see how on sales orders it does the calculation and tells us what the EPR information is. Then that excise journal is kind of a periodic, I'm now going to collect all this information, and it goes away and finds all this posting of sales orders. And then the excise transaction logs is the audit at the end of the process of everything we think has been recorded in whatever period that we've run that excise journal for. Cool. So that hopefully is a bit of an overview of the options. Like I said, we're going to concentrate on the sustainability module. So Fran, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Just before I start, I just wanted to say as well, we realise this is quite a complicated process and there's quite a lot of steps to set it up. So we do plan on doing a Bevica knowledge base article on it in the next few weeks. So you don't have to watch back the recording and try and remember all the steps. And also just to say, if you do have any questions as I go along or as we go along, then please pop them in the Q&A or in the chat if that's easier, and we'll do our best to answer them. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. Just check, Claudia, can you see that?
Yep, we're good.
Okie dokie. So as Claudia mentioned, I'm going to go through the sustainability module, so the Microsoft sustainability module. Some of you might have seen this if you watched the What's New in Bevica webinar, because Charlotte, I know, showed it briefly, but we're just going to go into the detail of what you need to set up to start reporting on your EPR. So firstly, if we look at setup and we go into sustainability setup, some of you might have seen this page before, but if you haven't, this is kind of a newer Microsoft page that can set up all sorts of sustainability things. So it can look at your emissions and wastewater, and EPR comes under waste. So that's why Microsoft have kind of put it under this umbrella. So specifically, we're going to look at the EPR settings on here. So if I go down to the procurement tab here, to get this working, first of all, you need to turn on this item emissions toggle here. And then you also need to turn on the enable value chain tracking. And once you turn those on, I'll show you in a second, but this will activate the sustainability fast tab that we're going to see on the item card. So those two need to be turned on. And then you also need to set up a number series for your item material composition numbers. And we're going to come to what those are in a second. But you need to set up, I've already got this set up, but you need to set up a number series in there. And then Microsoft have kind of linked carbon with EPR. We don't really know why, but there is a little bit of setup that we need to do on the carbon on this page and also on the item that you must do to get it to work. So this was a bit of trial and error for us. It's not in Microsoft documentation, but you do need to set this up to get it to work. So if you click on this emission fees up here, you need to set up an emission type of CO2, and you need a start date for that. And you do have to put something in this carbon fee field here. So I've just put 1 in there. It's not going to do anything. It's not part of the calculations. But I mean, if you do start to look at your carbon, you obviously would be using this. But just for EPR, you have to put something in there. So you put 1 in there. And then you also need to set up a sustainability account category for EPR. So if I open this up, you can see with the demo data here, some of the other things you can do with the sustainability module. But we're only interested in EPR now. So you just need to set up a code for EPR, and your emission scope needs to be water/waste. And
sorry, Fran, it's just worth saying that this demo data that we're looking at here, this is provided by Microsoft. So in your environment, if you create a demo company or maybe one in Sandbox, you can have all this this data there to make it easier to set up or just to understand what it's trying to do.
And then the final thing you have to set up in here is you have to set up a subcategory. And again, don't actually have any data in here, so you don't need anything in here. You just need to set up a subcategory. So I've got a subcategory of EPR for my EPR. So that's everything on the sustainability setup page. We're now going to look at the next part, which is EPR materials. And this is where we're actually going to set up our individual materials that we're going to report on and the fees that are associated to those. So this is all examples I've set up in here. So you would set up your actual material itself, a unit of measure code. I've chosen to go for kilograms. You could do tons, but then you're going to have a lot of decimal places. So just for ease, I've gone for kilograms. And then I've got my EPR fee rate per kilogram and then my effective date. We were thinking about sort of ways that you could make this really descriptive and really prescriptive. And we're sort of aware that when it's household waste, you have to report on the recyclability assessment methodology. That's a bit of a tongue twister, on each material. So you could actually, if you wanted to, set it up. So I've got one for glass here, but I also just thought I'd set up one for glass that's green rated, amber rated, and red rated. And then I've got the base rate against my amber rated, and I have got a discounted 9%, I think it is, rate for green rated glass, and then I've added on 20% for my red rated glass. So that's just a kind of option for you. We're not telling you how to do things, we're just sort of pointing you in different directions that you can choose how you want to do this, how detailed do you want to be. And also we are aware that EPR is always sort of estimated until after the time. So again, it's up to you how detailed you want to be in here. Anyway, so once you've set up all your EPR materials.
So sorry, Frank, can you just go back a sec?
Yeah, sure.
So with the fact that it changes every year, that effective date there on the right-hand side means that you could create a second set for 2026 with the different fees if you wanted to keep kind of an audit of what you'd been recording year on year.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. So now you've got your EPR materials set up. If I go into my item material composition list, this is where you use those materials to build up an item or a set of items that you're then going to actually put onto the item card against one of these. So again, I've got a few examples here. So you could do this by specific item, or you could do this by a group of items. So it could be based on the glass weight and the closure. Or for example, if you knew that a producer you always got the wine in the same bottle, for example, you could set it up for each producer. So there's a few kind of options there for what you want to do.
It's really, I think, about trying to create the material composition, which is effectively is a bill of materials, that you can create as few of them as you think you can get away with to be accurate. So you're not creating one every single time you create an item, because that would be quite a lot of work if you needed to do that.
Yeah, so it's totally up to you. If you have somebody that's doing this full time and they want to set up one for every single item, be really specific, then that's a possibility as well. So I've just opened up one of my item material compositions to show you. Firstly, I'll just talk about this status here. When you set up a new item, it always starts off as new, and then when you are finished with it, you can certify it, which I'll show you in a second. But if it's certified and you want to change it after, you have to flick this to under development here. Otherwise, you won't be able to change anything, and so you don't really want to do work and then have to go back on yourself. So I'm going to leave this as new for now. So this example I've set up is just a 500-gram glass bottle with a cork closure. I've got a unit of measure code here that is important because that will calculate further down the line, which I'll show you. So you do need a unit of measure code, and then you can then use your item materials that we've set up, your EPR materials. And once you bring a new one in, if I show you, it will automatically bring this EPR fee rate in for you that we set up on our EPR materials. And then you can also put a weight in here of that material. So if I was to put in 0.02, so you can pop your weight in there, and then again, I'll show you on the item card, but that will calculate your total EPR weight based on all of these. But what it doesn't do is it's brought my EPR fee rate in for my EPR material, but it doesn't calculate my weight that I've added here against what the rate is per kilo. So you do need to do a bit of an additional work in here to do the calculation. So I've just put my weight and then a little times, and there you go. That's now my actual rate for that amount of aluminium. So just a bit of a we learned that the hard way, Claudia, when we were playing around with this. It doesn't do that for you. So I'm just going to delete that line. So once you've built up your item material composition and you're happy with that, you can then mark that as certified. And once it's certified, you can now use that on an item, which I'm going to show you now. So if I go into my items and I'm going to pick an item that I haven't already used, and I'm going to pick an item that's 75 cl, because if you saw, all of my item material compositions was for 75 cl. So you'll see there's some additional fields already on here, which we'll come back to in a second. But if we scroll down a bit further, you will see there is now a sustainability fast tab here, which is what we initiated in the setup. So there's a few things that you need to do here to get this working. So we need to fill in our default sustainability account. So this was what we set up on our sustainability setup page. So we need to put in something in there, so EPR. And then I said we'd come back to the carbon again. So this CO2e per unit, you'll see it's at 0 here. You have to have something in there for EPR to calculate on your sales orders. So to do that, you need to put something in this field here. So again, I'm going to put 1. And then you need to press this button up here, which is calculate CO2e. If I press it, you'll see it's automatically filtered to this item, but you could actually take that filter off. So let's say you were setting up lots of these, you could go through, set them all up, and then you could run this without the filter, and it would then calculate your CO2 for all of those items. But for now, I'm just going to calculate for this item. So I press OK, and you'll see I now have 1 in my CO2e per unit. So that is something that can definitely catch you out. If it's not working, if it's not coming up on your sales order, you think you've set it up right, just double check that field.
These, sorry, just Fran, these anomalies that are a bit odd to what we're trying to do with EPR, these are some of the things we might in Bevica try and hide or try and automate that. So what Fran did with the CO field there, we might automate that if we know that we're trying to set up the item for EPR, so that it doesn't, you don't feel like you're having to do a whole load of work that for no other reason than just to get the software to work, which isn't brilliant.
Yeah, if you're not going to use carbon, it would be good to get your feedback. I mean, have any of you used this? And if so, did you figure out that you needed to calculate CO2? Because that took us a while to get that going. So let's look at these extra fields up here. Now we've got EPR category. So we're going to be looking at packaging. So I'm going to set that up for packaging. And then we've also got our material composition number. So I'm going to pop in 500 gram cork for this item. And you'll see I've now got an EPR fees per unit calculated for me. And if I just refresh the page, I've also got a total EPR weight there. So that's my item all set up and ready to use. And now I'm going to show you what that looks like on a sales order. I do a new sales order, pick my favorite customer, Asado Bar and Grill, and pop that item. I think it was this one, but I've got a few set up anyway. So on my sales line now, you'll see I've automatically got my EPR fee per unit has come through there. And I've also got a sustainability account number. If I was to add three cases, you'll see it's now calculated. So it does do that calculation for you. It knows my base unit of measure is 75 cl, and then it's calculated up for me and popped my total EPR fee for that line there for me. And then if I was to pop a few more lines on here. It's calculated those for me. And then let me just refresh this, make sure this is up to date. You'll see as well, I've got this total EPR fee there. So that's for the whole order. So that's a nice little feature as well. You can see there. And then all we need to do is post this order now, and the system will log these EPR fees in the background for us. But there is an additional step, or a couple of additional steps. So this doesn't do everything for you. You need to do another bit, which we kind of think, as this is posting, we kind of think that this would probably be part of your month-end process, but that's totally up to you how often you want to do this. So I'm not going to open my posted invoice, but what I am going to do is go to my new excise journal. So you can see my journal batch name is EPR here. We do need to set up a journal batch for EPR. So I've already got this one set up, but you just need to give it a name, give it a number series, and then there's a few different types here. So there's carbon, EPR, and excise. So it just needs to be EPR. And then once you're in your journal batch, you can press this button, calculate, and it will automatically bring through all of your sales that have EPR on them that haven't already been logged. So I've only got these 3 from the order that I just did. So there's some details on here. We've got the document type and the document number. We've got our customer number, that's quite handy, because if you did want to, let's say you were going to, as Claudio discussed, this doesn't actually do financial postings for you. So then you decide what you want to post. If you wanted to filter out certain customers, you could do that because you have got that detail on here. You've got your item number and your unit of measure, quantity. You've got your material breakdown number, which is lovely, but you don't have the actual breakdown of that material breakdown. So again, we've already spoken about that, but that's something we feel is missing. It's great to have the detail on these, but it would be nice to have that, especially I'm going to show you in a moment once we post this. It's the same data that we're going to see here. So there is a bit of, you are going to do some admin of taking the materials out. You can maybe do a configuration package and use Excel to combine the two. So you've got your material breakdown description, and then you've got your weight and your total emission cost, which is your EPR fees there. So that's everything on your journal. And then if you press this button to register, that then registers your journal lines, and these live in this very catchy name of excise VAT transaction logs. And once they are registered, they all go into this. So there's some ones that I've previously done here. So yeah, same information on here. But then you can go ahead and take those figures and post them against your GL, but it doesn't do anything for you in that. So I think that's everything I wanted to show. Claudio, was there anything I missed?
No, I think no, that's great. Yeah, this end result here is kind of the end of the process in terms of the sustainability module. It doesn't post anything financially, and it doesn't give us the material breakdown, which is a shame. It's something I think we would like to add. We've got a question about if the supplier changes the weight mid-vintage, do we need to set up a new item? No, I think you would just need to change the material composition, the bill of material, to reflect the new weight. So change it to new, change it, put it back to active, and then all the new orders will pick up that new weight. So no, you don't need to create a new item. So hopefully you found that interesting. Any questions, please let us know. If we could ask you to fill in the questionnaire that you can see on screen now. This means that Microsoft are aware of our webinars, so they give us support. So it means we can do more of these webinars and roundtables in the future. So hopefully you found that interesting. Let us know if you have any specific questions. If not, you'll get an email linking to the questionnaire and a recording of this in the next couple of days. So, no more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.